We're making a tier list. Everyone loves those, obviously. No one could ever hate someone for making a tier list that doesn't line up with their opinion. Um, but I figured if we're gonna do a tier list, I might as well do something where like I actually have a halfway decent understanding of the characters. And since I've been playing like nothing but tank for the last like probably 60 hours of Marvel Rivals and played tank all the way up from I think I played from about Silver 3 up to, well, it'd be GM3, almost GM2. And this is season 1.5. I hit Diamond in season 0. So I've been playing, I started out as a Magic main, switched over to tank, and at about Plat 3 in season 0. And then ever since then, I've been playing mostly tank. I've played like 1 or 2 games of support here or there. So let's get into it. So first off, I just want to say these are mostly going to be based off of how meta I feel they are. Also slightly my opinion. But to start out, we have Groot. Easily one of the few tanks that I would put in S tier. I think Groot is a really solid pick still. It's hard to justify some of the other tanks sometimes when you have some of the top tier tanks that I will obviously reveal as we go through the tier list. I would say Groot is easily up there as a solid pick. It's really hard to go wrong with Groot unless if you're just not very good at the role in general. But yeah, I would say like Groot is a solid pick into most team comps. I guess there's probably a few that he wouldn't be great for. But in general, I think Groot's a good pick, especially if you're running double tank. I don't know, his ability to isolate. But yeah, also who doesn't love playing Fortnite in Marvel Rivals? That's always fun. But no, yeah, I would say Groot is easily a solid pick. His ability to isolate people, his Ironheart wall, or is it Ironheart? I don't remember what it's called. The Iron wall, the big wall, is great for the extra sustain it gives your team. They get extra healing whenever they're doing damage nearby, and honestly, in general, I feel like Groot is a good solid. I would say he kind of averages more towards the main tank area. I don't think he rolls as an off tank as well as some of the others do. But yeah, I would say Groot is easily S tier. Definitely a really solid pick. I would say I don't think I ever would hear anyone complain about a Groot unless if they're performing poorly. Alright, on to the next one, and this is a sad one for me because I love playing Thor, but I gotta admit he's not S tier. He's great, does really well, his kit's amazing, fun to play, and he honestly does like provide a lot for the team. He is really good. He does struggle a little bit more in the solo tank area, unlike some of the others. But if you're running double tank and you're running Thor, he's pretty solid. I would say Thor easily goes into A tier. It's really hard to say he would be any better than A tier. I think A tier is about where he belongs. He has a really good solid kit, but he's definitely not an all the time pick. There's definitely times where you'll feel yourself struggling if you're trying to play Thor. But I would say just his ability to cycle out abilities and create a lot of space by playing really aggressive and playing up pressure is really nice. He does struggle sometimes if he's getting pressured really hard. Generally, I would say he's pretty good. His ult is a little mediocre to me. Not in that it's bad, but just that it does feel like there's definitely a lot of times where you don't get nearly as much value out of Thor ult as you do out of the other tank ults. But I would say that kind of is offset by how much just raw potential you can get out of his kit, just base form. And by base form, I don't mean like his awakened form or anything. I just mean like without using his ult, your base kit is pretty good. Onwards to the next tank. I struggle with this one because I'm not very good at Hulk. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not very good at dive tanks in general, which is bad because dive is actually kind of taking like an uptick in meta right now. Dive is like slowly kind of eking its way up to the top of the meta. I don't know for certain right now what that meta looks like. It probably doesn't help. I made this tier list after not playing for like a week. Not quite a week, but like 5 or 6 days. That being said, there hasn't been any changes in the patches or anything. I haven't seen any big swings in the meta right now, and I would definitely say Hulk. See, here's the thing. I think realistically, he probably could be argued for S tier. I think I have to. He's just really good. Especially if you get the team up. I would say, I think if you're a good Hulk player, you know how to use his kit, you're really good at playing dive, your team's coordinated well enough to play dive, which is a big deal too, Hulk is easily S tier. Just his sheer dive potential, his ability to team up with Strange, and honestly, he's just like such a good tank. He has a lot of potential in both dive and in his sustain. Like he's pretty beefy. He doesn't quite last as long in like a brawl type fight as would be nice. But yeah, I would easily say Hulk is probably an S tier pick. You could disagree, and I'm sure there's probably people do, but I would say it's probably not a wild thing to put Hulk in S tier, at least not right now. Onwards to Strange, though. Again, Strange, I think, has to go in S tier. I think it's hard. You could put him in A tier just because his kit's kind of basic, but I think in general, especially if you have a team up, but Strange's shield and his playstyle is so well put together that it's really hard to not find value on Strange, even on a lower tier, on a lower ranked player. Will usually find Strange value on Strange. I mean, I would say he does have scenarios where he falls down a little bit, but I think he rolls really well. If you're picking Strange, I would say it's hard to not find value on him, although I think it's very easy to separate out a really good Strange from a bad Strange in just the way that you use his kit and how much you find value in different things. Onwards, though, we got Cap. I love Cap. Cap's great. Haven't played him that much, but he's like really enjoyable to play. Has a really fun get. Unfortunately, I think Cap might be our first B tier tank. It's just hard to find value. Don't get me wrong, there's Caps out there who are awesome. They're insane on him. They find so much value, especially if you're playing Thor together with Cap, you can really pop off on that combo. I feel like he's really a niche pick. He really relies on the individual playing him to make use of his kit the best. And I think, unfortunately, it's really hard to find value in that. I see way too many people who pick Cap and then they kind of understand the role. They try and be, in and out of fights, but they're just not cycling his kit well enough, and a lot of times you find that they don't really stay in the fight long enough to actually have impact on the fight or to even draw attention to themselves. And so what ends up happening is you're just kind of down a teammate if a Cap is bad. That being said, if a Cap is really good, you can easily pop off on him. Since I play Thor a lot too, if I see a Cap on him, I'll pop Thor, and a lot of times that easily increases their potential, like, way above what Cap is normally at, and I would say easily makes Cap much more viable. That being said, niche pick, kind of hard to justify whenever you have these other tanks up here, but definitely not like a throw pick, I would say. Next up, we got the Thing. I would say the Thing, perhaps it's just because he's newer, but I would say Thing goes A tier. I think he is kind of like Thor in that he's really good in most situations, but he definitely has some areas where he struggles a lot. I think just in general, the Thing has some issues on fighting certain team comps. A lot of times he's basically just frontline brawl like almost all the time. But if you're not playing like frontline brawl, really just farming out your damage, getting your ults up, getting those stuns out, it's really hard to justify playing him. And I think realistically, these two tanks here, Thor and the Thing, definitely fall off a little bit faster than these three do whenever it comes to scenarios in which you would pick or swap. The Thing is definitely a great pick, definitely finds a lot of value in most team fights, but definitely can fall behind if a team knows how to play against him, and also just in general, if you're not playing the right team comp for him. Next up, we got Magneto, and this is going to be the fourth tank in S tier. I know. There's a lot of tanks in S tier. Hear me out though. Mag is just really good. Mag is easily one of the best solo tanks. I myself have played a lot of Mag. Just for reference here, I want to point out that I think my most played tank right now is Magneto, followed by Thor, and then Doctor Strange. And I want to say I think Mag is really good, easily the best, probably the best tank in general right now, I'm not going to lie, but his kit's just so good, his ultimate's just so good, especially at countering support ultimates. But his kit, his bubble, is really useful. Again, stopping your support ults from getting countered, saving teammates whenever they go in. Like if your DPS goes in for a play, you can easily bubble them. I would say Mag's biggest issue is if you have a team that is brawly, Mag struggles a little bit. I think Mag works better into certain comps. I've found that Mag's poke potential is much better than most of the other tanks. Controlling space is really easy on Mag because you can kind of stand back and poke. You have bubbles if you take too much aggression, you have your shield if you take too much aggression, and it's really easy to just hold space on Mag and also to take space too because you have a lot of good mid-range poke ability. He reminds me a lot of Sigma in the way that he plays, like a Sigma Zarya type. The main thing though is obviously his ability to just solo tank just feels much better. Some of the other main tanks will fit into solo tank well. And the ironic part is I feel like Mag is just almost more of an off tank. But because of his wide variety of kit and his wide ability to maintain a team fight longer, I would say Mag can easily be the best solo tank. He's also easily S tier. I think if you don't think Mag is S tier, then I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to be controversial here, but I feel like you can argue some of the other tanks being in S tier, sure. You can argue these tanks not being in S tier, but if you're not putting Mag in S tier, then I don't know what you're talking about. Next up is Venom. Venom, I would say he's S tier, but the issue is that he really only fits into one particular playstyle. And you can force him into a team comp that doesn't match him, that doesn't fit with him. The issue is it really is hard to get value out of Venom if you're not running dive or some form of high aggression comp. Still easily A tier, has a lot of value, gets a lot of value. I would say that if you had to run Venom without the right comp around him, he starts to fall off a little bit. You start to see less value out of him. Realistically, you really need to follow up if you're going to play Venom, and I think it's just hard to justify not running dive around Venom, and that's why I would say he's easily probably more A tier than S tier. I think he just doesn't have quite the same variety and the flexibility that the other tanks have. Even Hulk, I would say, yeah, Hulk is like dive brawlish type character. Like you can kind of flex around on Hulk a little bit. I think Venom struggles a lot more whenever it comes to trying to flex his identity. His identity is just so strongly dive. It's hard to justify playing him any other way. Last one, and probably where I'm going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. I think Penny is our only C tier tank. Don't get me wrong. Penny can be really good if you know how to play her well, but I think really she struggles to find value way too often. You could argue she's in B tier with Cap, but especially since Cap has gotten buffs, like used to be, I would say Cap and Penny were probably in C tier, but Cap's gotten a couple of little tweaks to his kit, nothing like major, and also honestly not even really necessarily buffs, just like slight tweaks has bumped him up a little bit. Penny, in general, struggles to find a lot of value. She works really well on like Koth maps, King of the Hill, with capture points and stuff. She works really well on holding objective and area, but she struggles a lot, I feel like, whenever it comes to taking and maintaining aggression. So if you're trying to push up with Penny, you really do need to have another secondary tank that's willing to play aggressive and take space. Penny herself is just not nearly as good at pushing people out of chokes and trying to take space like that. Her kit really does work well at holding chokes. It works really well at holding points, denying key areas. It's really good at that, but in general, she just falls off way too quickly whenever it comes to trying to force her into an offensive role, or even just like sometimes her kit just kind of falls apart if you don't have the right enemy team comp to play into. You really do rely a lot on getting her kit set up in a way that is impactful. And unfortunately, if an enemy team knows how to play around her, you just like don't find nearly enough value out of her to justify picking her. There are people out there who are really good at her, can make her work, but I would say those are the exception, not the rule. And yeah, easily. I hate saying that Penny is the worst tank, but I think she just is. I think unfortunately she just is. The other tanks have more value. And more flexibility in their roles. That's easily why Cap is also B tier. He just loses out on the flexibility. His role is just very set in stone. Same thing with Venom, but the difference is that Venom, his kit is more suited for his own role, and so he finds way more value, especially because you can build a team comp around Venom much easier than building a team comp around Cap. That being said, though, hope you guys enjoyed my tier list. Hopefully, you guys don't hate me now. You guys have some stuff to talk about. And I hope I didn't make myself look like a clown by making this tier list. Yeah. Thank you guys, though. It's been Chubbs. And I will see you guys again later.